Welcome, Ultras and Switchy sisters alike, to episode 29 of the weekly episodic gaming adjacent livestream podcast show. This is Switch to Ultra, back on Mondays until. Last episode we left off mere days before the release of Pokemon Legends ZA, the first new mainline game in the Pokemon franchise since 2022. And this Monday marks the end of the launch weekend of the game, as I'm sure we both had the opportunity to play it at least a little bit. Welcome to the Switch to Ultra family. I'm your co-parent BHultra.
And I am your co-parent Switchy.
It took me a while to not come around maybe, but I think perhaps because we had been so long without a new Pokemon game, and saying it's been so long makes it seem more severe, right? Because Pokemon used to have these yearly releases, and I think I got it in my head that is the concurrent problem that people had with Pokemon games, that they're constantly releasing. There's a new game every year, and they're spreading themselves too thin. But what we got in 2023 and 2024 was just additional DLC for Scarlet and Violet. So only up until the release week of Legends ZA was because it took me a while to get excited. My excitement was slowly ramping. I think initially, my initial excitement, if I have a meter that's slowly depleting, I had full excitement for a new Pokemon game because I thought it was going to be a new Legends game, and I loved Legends Arceus. And I thought it was going to be something like Johto, something else set in the past, maybe Unova. When it was announced that it was ZA, the excitement went down a little bit. When it was leaked that the entire game would take place within only Lumio City, it went down again. And then when it dawned on me that we would probably only be getting new Megas, it went down a significant amount. But then slowly, or not slowly, but almost immediately, towards the final month right before the game came out, it started ramping up. And then when I got to this week leading up to the game, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't been excited for a new Pokemon game, like exploring a map and characters I'm not familiar with, since 2022. And maybe if somebody's listening to this in the future, listening to this in 2025, that's not going to sound like a whole lot of time. But for me, it was. 2022, late
Pokemon
2022.
Fans it is.
Yeah, well, just in general, this is my early 20s, so much has changed in that amount of time. I was 21 in 2022, and I'm 24 now. It's entirely different lifestyles. I had just moved here for the first time. So
Dude,
that
so
point, it dawned on me.
Because I feel like, at least for me, my life doesn't feel very measurably different than Scarlet and Violet era. At least for me. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'm not gonna say this I'll say I say this because it's kind of interesting to me. I think it's because you first really kind of started popping off on YouTube in mid 2022.
Yes.
I had already kind of started picking up steam, so I think because I assume that kind of changed your direction, what you were going to think about, what you were going to spend the next few years of your life doing. So I think because I was already kind of in the motion with YouTube, with Twitter and stuff like that at that point, it doesn't feel that different to me. And I was graduating my initial time in college there anyway. So yeah, it's, for me, it's doesn't feel that long ago.
When it comes to stream traditions, that's the only exception. I will reach back and be whoa, I streamed this game in 2020. Let's look at every year I played it, especially with Fall Guys. But beyond that, if it's not a tradition I've been doing every year to kind of big up how big the tradition is, I will sort of act like that year, specifically 2022, as a cutoff, okay, moving forward, 2022 onward, that's when stuff started getting good. And then even then, I'll watch back streams or videos from that year and be I didn't know what I was doing, which I'm sure everyone does. But before, I started making videos in 2019 and then started streaming in 2020. And for a while, it was linear, and then, as I got some distance from it, I started moving the goalpost along with me as it drags behind me. The more years I go up, the farther the goalpost moves, where 2022 is when I got my proper camera and branding that is recognizable for the stream, and that's when, I started making those videos specifically, and they started doing well. And then, I'm sure by next year, I'll be actually, 23 is when the streams started getting good. That's what people were watching, or 24 is when I figured out that I can make the resolution higher than 1080 or higher than 720 and not have the bitrate absolutely destroy it. I'm still learning stuff, and even now, I'm still changing the layout of streams, and I'm kind of actually, maybe the continuity starts now. Maybe anything that came before it doesn't matter. And I also just
own everything before yesterday.
Yeah, and I
isn't actually
moved states in 2022. I moved a month, or I think it was a week,
too.
2 weeks after the Izzy video came out. And it not because of that. I did the opposite. As soon as my video blew up, I moved out of California.
Yeah, that was the joke I was just about to make. Is that you like you make the Izzy video and you're like, I gotta move to Hollywood. I gotta move to California.
Why I know everyone's in the Austin area. Like that's the location where all the streamers go. And I think last year it was closer to September. I think they pushed it back another. Last year, the big overarching theme was that I tried to go to all the events. And the next year, I didn't go to any this year. But next year, I'm obviously going to do MagFest. I am fully intending to go there. I haven't heard anything back about the tournament yet. I want to try and do MomoCon again because I had a lot of fun doing that. And maybe VidCon as well. But I have heard nothing but terrible things about TwitchCon this year so far. And maybe that's just an excuse for me to not have to go. Because, like, I do have friends there. But already the fact that it was happening, like, mid-October, I'm like, I don't want to, like, fly somewhere else in mid-October. But maybe it's just because negative news always rises to the top. But everything I've heard about TwitchCon this year has been horror stories about, I guess, how hands-off the security is. Apparently, what I saw, right, was obviously Emiru getting attacked by some guy in the meet and greet line, and then she posted later in TwitLonger that nobody on the staff, like, bothered to check on her. And then there was someone else who was getting accosted by some Kick streamer and, like, harassed, and then their fan base started sending them death threats, so they're like, all right, I'm not going back to the convention. And then I saw another person posting a video of, like, a dance or whatever where they were selling switchblades or something. Just real cartoonish shit. I think it's less... I don't want to give the TwitchCon staff credit or, like, stave off blame or let them off the hook, but I do think this is less about the in-between, like, oh, that week there just happened to be poor security. And I think it is emblematic of just a greater problem with platforming, I guess. I don't know how I would go about fixing that, but everything I saw about this year just looked really weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing I've always really come to believe, or I'm saying that's such a paradoxical statement. I think one thing that I do kind of believe is that conventions are, there's a lot of people that go to conventions, and they are logistical nightmares. And I guess the reason I say that is that, you know, occasionally there will be like little horror stories about a con going on that people think like, oh man, what kind of freaks go to this con? And to be fair, sometimes there are freaks that go to cons, but yeah, you know, I think like with the scale of conventions, I mean, you think about like MomoCon that had like 30,000 people. I assume TwitchCon is probably like at least 50,000. Maybe I'm just like, maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know. I assume it's in the tens of thousands. You know, like even a well-maintained event, if you have like tens of thousands of people kind of going to a con, there's gonna be like bad situations. And like, especially if it's a party con, because then you have people doing drugs and shit like that. That like, you know, just. It is part of the struggle, and that it's not necessarily to excuse like bad con staffing and stuff like that. But yeah, I always try and remember that, like, I don't know, there, especially with furry conventions, there's a huge culture of like what is going on over there.
Yeah, and I think it might be a little bit of like a kink at Pride situation too, where a lot of the pushback for really questionable or exposing costumes or activity will be like, well, there's kids here at this convention. And then the argument is like, well, should kids be here at this convention? And I think there is, I went to, like I said, as much as I could last year. And I think that was the main difference I noticed between TwitchCon and VidCon, is that VidCon felt like it was made for children to go and like meet their favorite YouTubers. Whereas TwitchCon felt more like it was for streamers. Which you would think, like, as an adult, it would be like, oh, the adult one is more fun. But I think that's what I meant, but I think it's emblematic of a more cultural problem than it is, like, the actual staff. That, not that there aren't people clout chasing at VidCon, right? Because people are going to vlog their VidCon experience. But at something like MomoCon, which you've been to, it's more about people who know each other online meeting up as friends, like in a neutral zone. And then also meeting quote-unquote celebrities who have done something that they really like, whether it be the voice of something or the animator or the writer of something. And then VidCon, it does have these bigger stars, and it is more often than not for a lot younger people to go and kind of view these celebrities to them as like huge deals. And I felt a little, not strange, but I think I said this before, that I was meeting up with people at VidCon, and they said, like, oh, we're going to go wait in line to, like, meet these people. And maybe I have too much of an ego or, like, a chip on my shoulder or whatever, but especially now that, when I was a kid at conventions, I, like, waited in line to meet Brennel Floss, and now we're just cool, I guess. That
he liked one of my tweets. I was like, "Ooh, Brennel Floss."
I didn't think he was gonna like promote the video I put him in. I was just like, I have this 1 second gag if you want to be in it, and then he tweeted it out on Twitter and Blue Sky. He's a real bro. He's a friend of the channel. But that is like,
he literally is a friend of the channel.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be on Smosh someday, or I'm gonna be friends with MatPat or whatever. But I do think there is something where I'm like, I'm at the point now, either in age or just like online platform, where I don't want to like wait in line to meet a YouTuber to get them to sign something or take a picture with me, because I do maybe naively believe that at some point in my career I will end up working with them. And not that it's like a detriment to that, but I'm at the point where it's like, dude, I don't really care to wait in line, and like, I don't view YouTubers like that anymore, I guess. Like, I'm sure there's some I would like to meet just to talk to, but not enough to like, I need them to sign something levels.
Yeah, I feel like it's, I've never liked doing the line thing. I don't know if I was talking about it here, but like at cons, you know, I've been at cons where like Zuko, the voice actor for Zuko, what was his name?
Dante Bosco.
Dante Bosco, yeah. Because you know, Miami Beach has Florida SuperCon, so there's a lot of, you know, cool voice actors who go there. I remember, you know, it's funny. I also remember going to Savannah Comic-Con with my sister, and there was like an empty line for the mom. I'm not empty because like no one wanted to see her. It was just, you know, really early in the day. My sister was tabling.
Yeah.
The mom from Wizards of Waverly Place was there.
Oh,
and I've just been always afraid of like going up, because I think in those settings, like, there's often like a financial thing going on. So it's like, I mean, I think sometimes you're allowed to just go up and talk and say, hi, I'm a big fan. But like, if you want to have like a picture taken or an autograph or whatever, like, you have to pay. And I don't know. It's like, I first of all, I don't want to pay for an autograph. Like, that's just like, especially as a kid, the idea of like forking over $10 for an autograph, like that's like 2 weeks allowance for me. So, like, I wasn't going to do that, but also I didn't want to like show up and like not give someone money if they're expecting money from me. Yeah. I don't know. I did once have Charles Martinet smile at me though, and I was like, oh. Yeah, but I didn't want to like, you know, not give him money or something. I don't know.
Right.
That's
he was begging on the streets.
I probably could have just grown. Yeah, right. I probably could have just grown out of that if I got in the habit of doing it. But I don't know. Because of that, like, I've just never. I don't know. There's also something I also just don't like the premise of waiting in line to like. Maybe this is just an ego thing. Sometimes it just feels a little. Oh, I'm in line to just like tell you how awesome you are. You know? To be fair, like that's not to imply that like fan meetups are like that simple. I think it's just, I don't know. I have complexes, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to believe that there's like a divide, right? Because I do my best to be approachable, both in person and just like online in general. I like to answer all the anonymous asks I get on Tumblr. If I get a DM and it's an actual like beginning to a conversation and not some person just being like, hi, like if it's a compliment and they're like, oh, I love this, and I'll be like, oh, thank you. Or if I got an Instagram comment or an Instagram DM the other day, and I had to kind of like hold back my response because, again, I know they meant well, but it was someone DMing me, was like, hey, I really wanted you to know that Anne Maria does appear again in the Redonkulous race. And this is a comment I've gotten hundreds of times over. So like I started typing and I'm like, okay, this person probably, surely they haven't read all of my comments, because how could they? So then I backspaced. I'm like, that's very sweet for you to tell me, but trust me, I do know.
Yeah.
That I do my best to, like, you know, I'm not any better than people because I can make videos. I'm just, even like saying I'm good at making videos makes me sound like a scumbag, but like I have a talent for that one thing. I don't think it makes me any better or worse than anyone, but I think just as I don't know if it's because I have a platform now or just getting older, but like I don't care about the whole celebrity of it all, even with like actual celebrities. Like there's people I'd love to meet and talk to or even like work with, but not in that environment.
Yeah, that's the thing I've kind of come to find myself as well, is that like, because I've met a good amount of people with a good amount of with a decent amount of cachet, I guess you would say. And we've talked, but I don't know. I guess for me personally, maybe I'm just kind of stressed out. Like I never, it's hard to get what you want out of those conversations, especially because I think you often go in with like a certain amount of hope, even if you don't shouldn't have that hope. Like, there's often a thing that happens, I think, where a fan will like introduce themselves or have like a conversation with like someone they admire, and maybe the conversation's a little bit stilted, or it's not even stilted. Like the fan just like the fan is like feels like the person they idolize isn't as like thrilled to talk to them as they'd like them to be. I think it's there's a lot of variables in human communication, and I think if you're like really excited to meet someone and it's not your fantasy, it can often be a little bit like uncomfortable. I'll actually tell a personal story because I think it is kind of funny. One time I saw Sun Kill Moon live, and it's a solo project kind of band. It used to be a band, more of a solo project now. And one thing he does is occasionally he'll bring fans on stage to sing songs with him. And I remember he asked the crowd, like, oh, does anyone here know how to play in my songs? And I like raised my hand. I said, oh, I've like played like Carry Me Ohio before. But I think the way I worded it, he implied that I was saying that I should go on stage and play it myself. That's not what I was implying. But he made the joke. He's like, oh, well, you're not going to go up here and play it in front of everybody. Like, he said that implying that that's what I was trying to do. And like everyone in the crowd laughed. And I was like, that like ruined my mood for the night. Like it just this was like 2 or 3 years ago. But I remember that happened and I was like defeated by it. And I think about that now. I realize like it was such a nothing interaction. It was just kind of like being a little bit singled out, and he just has a habit of doing that. In the same show, someone went to the bathroom because it was a relatively private show. Like it wasn't like like a huge kind of like outdoor venue. Someone like and like he kind of made a joke like, oh, so it looks like someone's getting bored or whatever. So it's like he has a habit of doing that, and like, I don't know. I just think to myself, someone whose music means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I kind of have like one interaction with them, and like I feel kind of a little bit belittled. Even if it's, I don't know. I mean, I think like it can be difficult to meet someone you admire, and it's not necessarily anyone's fault because I don't really think he did anything bad. It was more so just like a small interaction that, I don't know, was a little humbling, I guess. I don't know how to say it. It's hard. That's why, I think I sometimes take forever to even reach out to people,
It's the same. It seems like a strange comparison, but it's the same thing of like having kids. And that's why it's so horrifying to me, is like the concept that you could just say something innocuously and not even like remember it at all. And it's something that just sticks with a child and frames their entire worldview. But it's something that like you say so many things to so many people, or say so many things to this hypothetical child, that it doesn't even register.
Yeah, that's one thing I've kind of like really realized in my own life, especially when I was like in the past. Well, I've always kind of thought about this because I think there are instances where people sort of like talk about their parents in a way that like like, do you expect these people to be child psychiatrists? Like
they mythologize their parents, whether it be negative or
Yeah.
positive.
So because of that, yeah. So, and I kind of thought to myself, like, I feel like there are a lot of things, because I was a very sensitive child. I was super like receptive to criticism or whatever. So there were a lot of like very simple things adults would tell me that I would like cry over. You know what I mean? So I was definitely that kind of kid. So it's so funny that like very, very basic things adults would tell me, not necessarily just my parents, would often kind of instill like habits that lasted me years. So like, if like just a simple like don't do that by like a stressed adult kind of made me think that I was in trouble and I was doing something really bad. I think that's actually a pretty common experience some kids have, where like they are, I guess they kind of develop a fear of doing certain things, like maybe doing certain things without being asked or touching certain things because they have a parent that's on guard or whatever. and it's, I don't know. It's just, you know, we have a capacity, especially people in sort of, I would say, positions of power or guidance, you know, to really affect people around us. And, you know, if nothing else, it's good to be aware of that.
Yeah, it's. I know I bring this up. I'm the friend that brings it up every time, but there is a professional wrestler that people feel very strongly about. That every negative thing they do is like, and this is why I fucking hate this guy. This is why I think he's full of himself. Whatever. There was a video not long ago of like a meet and greet of the people running the meet and greet. The wrestler was meeting these people, like basically pushing everyone in line through it really quickly. Like they stood next to the wrestler for a second, then he like quickly signed a paper and gave it to him. And there was like, people were complaining that there's no warmness. Like he was just sort of mindlessly pushing these people through. These people spent money to go through the meet and greet, but at a certain level of popularity and like celebrity, and depending on how many people are in the line, that's just what a meet and greet is going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone wants their experience to be like the personal experience, and then he brought me up on stage and we became best friends, something like that. But it's more often than not what these are like. And I know that Comic-Con
they invited me to join Smosh.
Yeah, I won them over with my scripts.
They invited me to the streamer house.
I sent them a script and they loved my episode so much that they hired me on the spot. Something like that. I made a TikTok about being on SNL and they cast me instantly.
Twitter, put me in the next Netflix series.
Yeah, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Yeah, like
it's a lot of that. And we can get into Pokemon soon and we will, but I think Deli was at Comic-Con and was talking to me about it a little bit. And I used to like slurp that stuff up like so religiously when I was very deep in it, like the mid 2010s. And then one time I watched like, I think I've brought up this exact same story. I watched like an Adventure Time panel, and it was for the final season, and it was mostly Q&A. And I had been to several conventions, mostly just MagFest each year, and I found the Q&A to be like fun because it was all new to me, and I'm sure it is for people who like don't go to them often. But after like your 20th Q&A, after either watching or attending one, not to be rude, but by the point where like people start answering Q&A questions, it's like, all right, I gotta leave. Like this is when stuff has kind of stopped getting interesting, because the people who want to ask
there's gonna be like some no, I'm sorry, you cut out for seconds. I thought I was finishing your sentence.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that there's like there's maybe 10% of people that will ask an interesting question that will go into an interesting story. But the rest are like, if it's a voice actor, it's going to be like, hey, can your character say this in this voice? Or like, oh, what advice do you have for up and coming people? I get that a lot too. Not just to big up myself to like get on this level. Like, yeah, people ask me for advice. But legitimately, my advice is just start doing it. Like, oh, what do you tell a young creator? Like, how do I get started? Just start doing, like, make videos. Why are you asking me how to make a video? I can give you individual advice for like little intricacies of titling a video, shooting it, editing it, whatever. But if your question is how do I start making videos, or do you have any advice for when I start making videos, I just make them. Granted, I didn't know anything when I started, so I wish someone told me the first year that I can do Control-C, Control-V, and Control-Z. That would have saved me a lot of time if I knew I could do that.
Yeah, no, one thing I will say is that, like, one piece of advice that I would give a lot of people is, like, even if you're doing something simple, like, there are so many, I think a lot of people, I would say, I don't know if it's the majority, it's not like I've tested this, but I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, some, like, stupid 10-minute YouTube tutorial can change your life.
Yeah.
Just straight up. If you watch like Adobe Premiere hacks or whatever, like say time-saving hacks, you might find a few things that save you like months of your life, like down the line. But you know, I think a big thing is that I knew a lot of people, especially as a teenager, who would talk about when they started making when they would start making videos, like, oh, once I do this, I'm gonna do that. Once I do that, you know, they would talk a lot about starting the process, but for some reason they didn't feel ready for it. And trust me, I mean, that is a thing that I've you know, felt a lot of times. And that's, you know, in some ways it's kind of rich from coming from a person who's taking a year to make a video. But like, I think there's, especially when you're starting out, you know, there's a good chance, and I'll say this, it's kind of harsh. A lot of people might not see your videos at first.
Yeah.
This niche, and like getting worried about like the theoretical like negative response that you might get is really not worth it odds wise. It's better you like, make videos that are a little unprofessional and learn from them,
Yeah. I'm glad nobody was watching my videos at the time.
Yeah.
As I was making them.
And you'll learn lessons either way. I mean, you'll learn lessons if a video does well. I mean, there are like a lot of, what I mean, I'm not gonna like, broadcast my own mistakes too much, but I think in a lot of ways, a lot of the dumb videos I made as a teenager, not even just as a little kid, as a teenager specifically, like they taught me a lot of lessons specifically on how to voice my opinion and how to actually kind of say say something in a way people don't get mad at, because I feel like there's a way to be specifically polemic or kind of very intentionally like there are ways to disagree with someone where you kind of piss them off, and there are ways that you can disagree with someone and they'll take it really well. I mean that's what rhetoric is, but I mean that is one of the things that I actually really learned from videos with mixed to negative reception. And you don't get that by just kind of making the perfect video and it gets 80 views because no one knows you yet,
Yeah, well, connecting this to the DM I got earlier, like, if at any point you guys have watched either of our videos and you think there is a mistake that we did not notice, I assure you we've seen it probably more times than you have. But, there's no system like annotations. Oh, the best we could do was like,
dude,
in a
I wish
comment,
they brought.
be like,
It's crazy they didn't. They never replaced that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like genuinely super valuable. Like it's crazy, that they would take something like that. I mean, I understand. I think there was like abuse with it. Occasionally you'd have like channels like Machinima. They like annotate the entire video with like an invisible annotation. So if you try to pause it, it sends you to another video.
Yeah.
So there's clearly like abuse with it, but there has to be something like that. It's crazy that they don't let you say, "Oh, minor correction here. I misspelled this."
Yeah.
It's like.
It's been enough time that I could probably just talk about it without it even mattering. But there was I posted the clip from it on Twitter like earlier this year. It was a Nikki Carry-On video from her saga deep dive into Shane Dawson, and there was a bit of researcher information.
That sounds kind of.
I mean, I have watched it. That's the other thing too.
Is that sounds kind of fun. I should probably watch that.
Yeah. But the bit in it is looking up information about one of Shane's characters. I forget, like SDZ, I think is the character's name. And I guess on like some wiki somewhere it said that he was a character on Total Drama because there's so many like Total Drama fan series with their fake wikis that pretend they're real. And she inserted a clip, and it's one thing to be wrong about that, like that's just blatant misinformation, but then the next clip to be like, man, I used to love Total Drama. These writers should be real questioned for this. And like that made me pretty upset at the time, but then I was thinking like, well, what is she gonna do? She's not gonna take the video down. It's like a 4-hour video, and this is like 10 seconds in it.
Yeah.
Like how do you fix that one? It's not worth it to take the video down and then upload a fix. Like it's misinformation and it's incorrect. But again, without something like annotations or edits, like what do you do other than crop that section out of the video? And I haven't gone back to watch it, so maybe it is gone.
She might be able to do that specifically because I think a lot of times, if it's like kind of a if it's just like a cutaway with something like that, you can cut it out. But even then, it feels like, if I can do stuff like that without, cutting out parts of my video and feeling a little bit less transparent, I'd rather, have that ability. But I mean, to be fair, one thing I'll say is that YouTube's slow to rectify one of these things, but I think a lot of viewers find it annoying, but like, I recently got A/B testing for titles. I got it for thumbnails, I think like a year ago. And I'm so grateful because that is a huge thing that, I mean, gosh, the amount of YouTubers I know who just cargo cult the shit out of their thumbnails and like titles too. I mean, it's because, I mean, like that alone can dictate whether a video of yours makes enough money for you to pay rent or just flops. So I am glad. I feel like YouTube has occasionally rectified, things like that and made things better for creators. But yeah, it's never as soon as I wish it would be,
Yeah. Sometimes there's a little bits, like the hype system seems exciting. I don't know all the
Yeah.
rules about it, like who you are and aren't allowed to hype, because sometimes I click on the descriptions of videos and it just isn't there.
Yeah.
But I've been
YouTube is
looking for like a
honestly not
repost
very
feature.
transparent about like when and why they kind of roll out beta features for creators.
Yeah.
It's like it seems to be very down low. I don't really know why. I mean, I imagine, it's just easier to kind of like sample it with like, oh, let's try it with this video, see how people do. Let's try it with a video that, or like, but not this video. But I don't know. I mean, they probably honestly, and it's, you get called a shill for saying stuff like this, but I think a lot of things that YouTube does that people like get mad at it for, they probably actually they probably actually do for somewhat decent reasons.
Yeah.
Not always, but development is, it's not always easy, but what I'm saying is you guys should all be nicer to Alphabet, the billion-dollar company.
Yeah, they're doing their best.
Yeah, they're doing
They're
their best.
trying. Well, that was I finally posted the teaser to my Halloween video this year, and I think YouTube went down the like minute that the teaser went up. So there's no like live chat
Really?
there. Yeah, because I was clicking on my own link to see like if it was going up, and then that's when YouTube was down. And then I checked Twitter and it was trending. Everyone was saying like, "Why is it down?"
Yeah, okay.
I think people in my server were saying it was down. Or I posted a link to it on Twitter, and then somebody responded like, "Oh, you mean during the crash?" I didn't even know. I was at a dinner. I didn't even know that YouTube was like down. I would never be at the. I mean, I use YouTube a lot, but I don't think I could ever be at the level where like YouTube is down, and then I'm like, well, what do I do now? I have nothing else to do.
I was talking about this with my dad actually. Like, well, you lived in Florida, but it was only when you were like a little kid, right?
Yeah, I moved when I was like 5 months old.
Okay, so yeah, so it's not like a thing you've, at least with hurricanes, but it's funny. A lot of people I know, they'll talk about like when a hurricane hit, they found themselves doing shit they've never done before, or like just doing shit they haven't done in forever because often hurricane the power's out. So like my dad told me that's like when he picked up and like read the entirety of like War and Peace or whatever, and like. It is funny because, yeah, usually when, like, shit you normally do is down, you find yourself, like, I don't know, doing things that you never thought or you've always been flaking on doing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That happened when my, that era where my phone stopped working, so I was just watching YouTube videos on my Switch. Because I do like to test myself and be like, okay, if I just lost my phone, like, would I be able to get around to function? I like to have back. I was thinking about this last night because I just have weird anxiety. I was telling my wife that it's just good to have someone in my bed when I wake up in case like I have this weird fear that like, oh, what if I wake up blind? Like I can get up and find my phone, but where do I go from there? Like how do I get out of the house? How do I let people know? And then I was testing all the like voice to text stuff to see if I'd be able to one, traverse my house, and two, like get someone to get to me. Because I have a roommate, but I feel like we only ever meet in the kitchen when we're both in there, that we have our own sense of privacy, that I think if something happened to me in my...
not help you.
Yeah, if something happened to me in my room, I think it'd be a good couple days before anyone discovered me, if that's the case. If in a hypothetical where I'm alive, but I get trapped in my room somehow. So let me ask you, before we get into the meat of this, because it's going to be like this for a while. I said that, like, oh, moving forward, every other week there's going to be a new Nintendo release. But I think for the most part, no smoke to Kirby Air Ride. Also, apparently, people have been saying that Sakurai learned about the Kirby Air Rider second Direct in the Nintendo Direct when they announced it. I don't know if that's like a translation thing, but like from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like he was surprised. I think he was just tweeting and being like, whoa, another Direct, I gotta write more stuff. I don't think that means that he didn't know it was happening. But either way, there will be, I guess after October, then it's Hyrule Warriors and Kirby Air Riders, and maybe Metro Prime 4 will have a lot of stuff. But now that we're here, I think ZA is going to be the one I'm playing the most. I've seen a lot of people playing it a lot. And I said this both on the podcast and on stream, that with Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a better game, there's still a level of like, I don't want to say, well, yeah, respect. There's a level of like respect and understanding when it comes to this game that people are gonna pace themselves, and there'll at least be a good month before I start seeing posts of King K. Rool, which is about what happened. It was like a month or so. But with Pokemon, people consume these games so quickly, and it made me kind of think about why people talk about the post game and the longevity of these games so much. And maybe just because Pokemon is a lot easier, but I also think that's an interesting argument to have. Like, maybe people are complaining that the games go sour so quickly and they don't have sizable post games because they're going through these games so quickly. And I think that was the moment. Everyone has their moment where they're like, maybe I'm too old for Pokemon, or maybe they never. Sorry, there's too much self-awareness to know that you're too old. It's more so people are like, man, Pokemon got bad, quote unquote. It's never this isn't for me. It's this thing is bad now. And my moment was with the original X and Y, when I think all the previous Pokemon games, as soon as I got them, I played them nonstop, like no matter what. But with X and Y, I played it nonstop, and then over, like, I got it, and then the next day, or maybe the day after that, I beat the game. And I know X and Y is famously a really easy game, but it also could just be that was the first point where I'm like, man, these are getting either too easy or I'm playing them too much. My point is, there is no spoiler embargo for Legends ZA. People are already posting everything. And I spent 6 hours on Thursday playing the first 6 hours of the game. And by that, I mean 4 hours, and then I tried grinding to evolve a Pichu into a Pikachu, so that way I wouldn't have to catch another Pikachu to trade for a Heracross. And
I used to be like that, but not anymore. I just catch everything. I don't care about evolving.
Yeah,
like,
because I have everything in my Pokemon home and my living dex. I'm like, I don't need 5 Charizards. I don't need to catch another one. But I like the mechanic I'm doing is that I caught one of each Pokemon, and I'm keeping my starter, but I'm using the letter gimmick to rotate through teams. So I have like a Z team, which is my starter, and then the first 5 Pokemon I catch, and then the Y team is the next 5 Pokemon I catch, and then the X team, so on and so forth. So there's like all these different groups of 5, and they're lumped together, sort of like in Total Drama whenever there's a foot race, and then that's how they place them on the teams. Like, oh, you got here second, you're on this team, so on and so forth.
Except for like when they don't for some reason, and they like put like Alejandro on a separate team from like,
just to mix it up a little bit.
That they put Duncan on a separate team. I forget exactly, but like at World Tour, they kind of it's a little weird how the teams work.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do victory first, and then they start. I think it's that, like, Sierra, Heather, and Cody arrive at the same time, but then for whatever reason, they put Sierra on the Chris team, and then they put Heather and something like that. Anyway, I gotta fucking get through this game, but I only want to do it on stream. So much so that I've allowed my wife to start playing it on a different account on the Switch too, and she has since gotten past the point where I was, so I can't even watch her play it anymore because I'm this like spoiler averse. But I, in those 6 hours, did not make it as far as I thought I probably should have, and I'm gonna try and play. Maybe on Tuesday I'll do another double length stream because this game, more so than any, I am determined to like not be spoiled on, even though people are doing their best. My YouTube notifications from Gator EX and like Austin John Plays or whatever, or Poke Tips, all that stuff. You know, people I follow and forget they exist, and then a new game comes out, and my entire feed is like, here's how to catch this rare thing, so on and so forth. That, before we get into this conversation, to this discussion, you did play a little bit of Legends EA, question mark?
Probably a good, like, how many? Like, probably a good, how to count, probably a good 11 or 12 hours. So
okay, I don't know if this is a good barometer for this, because I think this is another thing that somebody was talking about. What rank are you? Like letter rank?
I'm like rank D or E, I think.
Okay. So yeah, no, I didn't get nearly as far. I haven't...
Well, okay, have you heard any discourse about the ranks themselves so
far?
I
don't... It's the same thing with K. Rool, where I think I saw stuff out of the corner of my eye that if I just pretend I didn't see it, then I could be surprised or whatever. But to my understanding, potentially, before going into it, you don't actually battle each letter. You skip a bunch at some point. Is that true?
Yes.
I hate that. I don't like that.
Yeah, you know, I saw people complaining about it. But I also saw people saying that if they did make you do it, like, everyone else would be complaining about that. and they're kind of right. Like I think the idea of ranking up every single like 26 times or 25 times, like I think people would hate that, and there's probably some truth to it. I mean, it's just kind of a weird thing to frame the game around, but the game isn't really framed around it, or at least I don't think it is. I actually don't know how far I am in the game, but I would say my Pokemon are like mid 40s right now.
Okay.
And yeah.
So I guess it's kind of hard to place directly, but I haven't beat Yvonne. So I guess I'm rank Z right now, or rank Y. But I do have an Embor. So I was just doing other stuff, I suppose, in a different order. But I haven't made it nearly as far. So I guess, like Bonanza, I am a lot farther behind because I've shackled myself to only playing it on stream. But I will say this, in reference to the battling system or the ranking system, that I think everyone's ideal Pokemon adventure is framed either by comparing it to other RPGs, like a Xenoblade or a Monster Hunter or a Dragon Quest, or comparing it to other action games or other Nintendo games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, or their ideal Pokemon game is framed by not delusions, but like fantasies of the show, like watching the show as a kid. So I think you could tell which direction someone is leaning towards when they talk about what they want from a Pokemon game. I think, although I prefer the games above all else, that what I want from a Pokemon game is for it to feel like the show I watched as a kid. I think I'm learning this about myself, that I like when it leans that way. And the fact that you can get the Pokemon's health all the way down and then they're dizzy and then you could throw a ball at them, that's very much like the anime. And on top of that, because the Pokemon series was also an anime, and animes do this a lot, at least in the 90s, 2000s, each season or each region had a tournament arc, right? That's what ended the season of each anime, is that Ash would be in the tournament with rivals and other characters we met in previous episodes. And that's always fun to see those characters come back, and maybe like the rivals he's been fighting the entire time, and see their teams change. And that's what I've always been looking for in a Pokemon game. And that's why I was sort of disappointed when I played X and Y, is like, I like the idea of, instead of there being one rival, it's like a group of like 5 friends and they all have unique teams. However, your 4 friends in X and Y are really lame and uninteresting, and their designs also aren't very good. So I was excited about the ranking system.
The guy with the lollipop hair.
Yeah. I was excited about the ranking system because on top of the character customization being really, really fun, I don't know if the art direction is different or if they just only care about hard fits when they're in Pokemon France, but I feel like more so in Legends ZA, the NPCs stand out individually more. Like the guy that we meet in the opening with the Pancham who has the Ultra Ball hair. I'm gonna remember that guy. So if he comes back later in the game, I'll be like, oh, that's the guy from earlier. Instead of just looking like, oh, I'm the backpacker or I'm the hiker, the fact that everyone has a near unique design, it makes these characters stand out more, and that's why I want those ranks. So I'm like, oh, this character that we run into in Act 1, maybe they'll be like a rank C in Act 3. You know, we'll get through all these characters. So the fact that they skip several ranks, I guess they know more about the pacing of the game, and I'm sure this was a deliberate decision because there were pacing issues, but I like, or would like, that ZA feels like one of these anime tournament arcs, and all of the colorful characters we've met throughout the game come back into this tournament. Like, come back for that story.
Yeah.
But
I'm fine with it, honestly. I mean, it's like a little bit... I mostly... Because I didn't really give a shit when they were talking about, like, oh, rank your way up from Z to A. Like, it was, you know, it's not really that, like, particularly, like, enticing to me one way or the other. But I remember one thing I've noticed, since you brought up the anime fantasy thing, I feel like that's one thing the Legends games specifically do kind of well, is, like... You know, a lot of the little side quests you have, they feel like an episode of the anime in some ways. Like, it's like, oh, me and my like partner freaking like Pokemon, we need help with this. Help us out with this. Oh, you helped us out with, it's like there's like something about that. I would also say the writing itself, I feel like there's more comedy in Pokemon games nowadays. Not
Yeah.
like it's particularly like super funny, but I feel like there's like a silly dynamic between a few of the characters that like pretty much pre-Gen 8, maybe even Gen 9. I don't know. There's like the team and the way the Team MZ characters talk to each other. I don't know. It's not a kind of dynamic you would see in old Pokemon games, to be honest.
Well, I think that's one of the most things I've seen people post. I've seen majority of the time in like a pie chart of the post of ZA, it's been somebody's fit, like how they customize their character, the Pokemon they shiny hunted, or it's screenshots of the dialogue of random NPCs. And I really like that the NPC dialogue specifically kind of feels more like, and I know it's dumb to say like, oh, it feels like when it was the past, but it kind of feels like when the translation team didn't translate very well, so they just put bullshit in the dialogue boxes. Like them talking about eating Pokemon or asking where Pokemon like sweat comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's like one thing I noticed. This is probably a thing in a lot of Pokemon games. Like I talk to some NPCs, and I feel like I often read the dialogue you're supposed to read second first. Because if you go up to like two characters talking to each other, I can't even think of an example of this, but occasionally like it's clear that you're supposed to read one character's dialogue and the next one after.
Yeah.
But I'll often read them out of order by accident, and it's like it's kind of confusing because of that. Well, it's not you kind of piece it together, but it's like a weird.
Here, I'm gonna
it's a weird quirk.
simultaneously do something for you and put you on the spot. I gotta go take care of something real quick. This is your opportunity to if you have any strong feelings about something that happens in the game past where I am, this is your opportunity to spoil it. I go take care of something real quick. So do your dissertation.
There's nothing really specifically that I'm like passionate about spoiler wise so far. I guess there are like certain hints that kind of reflect back to Pokemon X and Y that are kind of strewn about that I don't really. I don't know. I never liked X and Y particularly that much, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, maybe if I revisited them, I'd get more out of them. But I was like so disappointed with them when they came out that I think it's like that very much colored my perception of the game. But I'm really liking the setting of Lumio City. I was kind of like worried at first about the setting of like one city versus select areas of a region. But I'll talk about this more when Andrew gets back. I kind of don't mind it that much, especially because like I don't know. It's a different kind of like overworld traversal in Pokemon Legends ZA because it's a city compared to just the like open tracts of land in Hisui. To the extent that like I was expecting to have a big problem with the modern kind of setting, and I think I'm kind of over that, all things considered. Like I think I really like the premise of like old school kind of ancient Pokemon, or not really ancient. I mean like like the region like that like I'm pretty sure Legends ZA is not Legends Arceus is mostly based off of like turn of the century Japan, so it's not actually like that ancient. But the point I'm making is that like I thought the setting of the game would kind of need to be outdoorsy like Arceus was, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think especially because specifically, man, it is hard to talk on my own. I think that I think, as I said, I think the city itself, there's a lot of fun things about traversing it on its own as opposed to just kind of like open land. Admittedly, I sometimes find open land a little bit boring. But also, I think that fuck, I'm so bad at this. I think one thing I don't really like the wild zones. It feels like kind of a janky replacement for the like actual wild outdoors of Pokemon that is kind of nice to have, But at the same time, and I actually don't know, it seems like there is like something story related with it. So it's kind of hard to pass judgment on it right now because it seems like the wild areas in themselves, I don't want to say it's hinted at. I'd say there's like I would say that in the game so far, it's kind of alluded that the wild areas play some story significance. So I think because of that, I'm a bit more forgiving of it. I mean, not forgiving, but like I'm willing to hear the game out because I haven't finished it. I'm like, okay, maybe they're going somewhere with this. I admittedly don't really care as much about the fits as BHultra does. It's fine for me. That's one thing I've never. A lot of the newer games, they really advertise the NPCs, and I don't know. I've never been particularly like surprised or into the NPCs. I think just because like especially in the more no, it's always been like this, but especially I feel like in the more recent games, because the games are a little bit more handholdy and stuff like that, you kind of see the same dialogue. Basically in Pokemon games, you're the best person ever. You're literally awesome and everyone loves you. Everyone thinks you're so cool. Everyone wants your help. And they're I don't know. I because of that, like most of the characters kind of blend together. Like I think her name's Nimona. I'm trying to remember. Like the main kind of like rival character. Like she doesn't feel that much different than pretty much any other Pokemon like best friend. Oh, you're so awesome kind of character. So yeah, I don't know. That's just like one point I always have to make because I'm negative. I don't know. I'm not reading the chat, by the way. So I don't know if like let me read the chat. Let me see. Let me see what the chat's thoughts are on this. Let's see. Okay, nothing specific. I'm not saying much. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited to finish it though. I think one thing I've definitely come to realize, because you're seeing the same discourse here as you are with a lot of the most recent Pokemon games. I always disagree on with Switchy. Sorry about that. Sorry we disagree on everything. I personally hate Hitler and the Nazis, but if you love Hitler and the Nazis, then I mean, I guess that's you. But I think like the discourse surrounding Pokemon games is kind of annoying sometimes in the sense that there's a lot of hysteria. Maybe not hysteria. I don't know if that's the best word, but I guess, people really want to go for the very loud and rambunctious titles of them. I've seen people talk about that, like, oh, okay, Pokemon Legends ZA is an overpriced disaster, and I don't really think it's an overpriced disaster, all things considered.
It's been a couple days.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that I feel like because I mean, and this isn't to say that Game Freak is, not worthy of criticism. I think there's a lot of things about Game Freak that are worthy of criticism. I guess, it's like, everyone says you're batting for the $1 million company. But I don't know. I guess you'll often see discourse about video games. Sorry, Pog, I didn't mean to slander you right there. I think there's still like even if it's about like a famous company that's going to sell like tens of millions of copies anyway. I think that the bad faith arguments are still annoying to deal with. You know what I mean? Because that's what I think you deal with a lot in Pokemon nowadays.
Yeah, I think it is. I just opened up a different tab and on YouTube. The third result is the worst $99 game, and it's Pokemon Legends ZA, which isn't even true. That like because of the popularity of Pokemon, anything that's super popular, anything that's really popular will have both very strong feelings, right? Either that there are people defending it haphazardly being like this is the best game ever, or people that be like, man, I can't believe people actually buy Pokemon games. And I think that's where it comes from, is that people who are really, really upset about Nintendo, Pokemon, anything like that, it's not just, and I imagine it weighs on them a little bit, it's not just upset that they don't like the business decision. It has to be an additional upset that these things are still like selling well. And I'm not even saying this to be like, oh, fucking Nintendo's dunking on these haters, because, like, it doesn't. I don't care if a game sells well ultimately, as long as I like the game and they keep making more of them. But I can understand, not that I relate to it, but I understand why they would sort of spiral, because to them it's a moral issue. We need to like boycott this company, and then when they see the console selling out or the game selling out, it's less mad about the decisions of the company and more mad about individuals buying it, when that isn't where your criticism should be levied. Like, it's not on the consumer unless it's a legitimate moral problem. And I saw this on Twitter not long ago, and I think I tweeted something about it, that like I knew someone who said they were quote unquote boycotting the Switch 2. It's like, no, you're just not buying it, which is fine. You don't have to buy it. Don't buy it until it's worth buying, and if it's not worth buying, then just don't get it. But the idea of like, oh, I'm voting with my wallet, I'm not buying it, and I'm taking a stand. Like, of all the immoral companies, Nintendo's not very high up there, even in like the video game industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things they've done. I think, while I say all of this, I think there is like some value to having these very hard to please skeptics, because I think in some ways it does keep people critical and willing to keep an eye on companies like Nintendo for when they do kind of do shitty things, because they've done shitty things in the past. But at the same time, I guess it's just a lot of the complaining about Pokemon, I think a lot of the times people just get tired of hearing the same argument over and over again.
Yeah.
So like,
Pokemon be fun as hell when you don't get a bitch in your ear telling you it's not.
Like, I think that's a part of it, is that occasionally I'll hear people like seem like, I feel like they often feel almost personally insulted or slighted by the Pokemon discourse, because they feel there's probably someone who's kind of told them that they're part of the problem, when it's like, okay, let's be. This is not a thing that
Well,
it's not a healthy way of talking about Pokemon and Game Freak as a whole and what they should or shouldn't be doing.
Right, and it's people that don't even want to engage with it anyway, because, and before I say this, I want to preface it that like, I think games should be accessible to everyone. I think everyone should get the opportunity to play the game by any means necessary. But it's always, whenever they're the same people talking about like, oh man, these idiots are buying this Pokemon game or the Switch too. It's like, oh, well, I can emulate these games on my Steam Deck. It's like, okay, well then you weren't gonna buy the game anyway then. If the game was everything you wanted, you weren't going to buy it anyway. And this isn't me saying like, man, like these emulators have gone too far, because who fucking cares, right? If you don't want to pay for video games, that's totally fine. You're getting a level of security when you're buying the game. But the understanding of, and that's why I think it leaked out a little bit, didn't it? Is it was already running on other hardware. No, I think that was just older Nintendo games, other stuff that came out. The idea that it needs to compete with your emulator, or just, consuming a product does not make you a member of community or society. Again, it's like, it doesn't matter if you don't want to buy it or not. But it's the argument of like, oh, I can emulate like everything on this, why would I buy any game? It's like, well, that's true. You don't have to be a part of this conversation at all. Yeah, Twitch chat says people that emulated were spoiling the game like days ahead, which I found annoying. And it's like malicious. It's not even just like like, oh, I'm really excited about this game. It's like, haha, I'm gonna spoil this game so that all these idiots who want to buy it. I don't know why I'm going to bat for this, but it is just like, you have no dog in the fight if you weren't gonna buy it anyway.
I mean, I think that's the whole issue, is like, you have an argument. It could be for a good reason. There's just rabble. There's rabble, and rabble can be really annoying to deal with. I mean, like, I've thought about this a lot, is that there's probably a lot of group chats full of like really passionate Pokemon fans that have been torn apart by shit like this, just because it gets so annoying. You know what I mean? Like, because there comes a point where the debate ends, but like, at the same time, Game Freak is still doing what it's doing. We still, frankly, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I feel they took 2 years to make Legends ZA, but I don't really feel like it's that much a cut above anything we've seen so far, all things considered. It's like, it's not like anything's like really meaningfully changed. I would say that. I mean, I feel like you can argue. I mean, I think there are some things about ZA that are steps in the right direction, but it can be exhausting to talk about because it's like, oh, okay. People get really, really passionate about it. And I think often people get more angry about like how annoying the conversation is, that they forget the conversation is worth having. I think there is a lot of important discussion to be had about Game Freak, I think, sometimes shorting, like just not doing as much as I think they could or they should. And I feel like there should be, I wish there was a way that to talk about it that solved the problem that didn't eventually get annoying. You know what I mean? That's the big thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to address problems without being annoying about it.
Well, this episode we're doing here is by no means akin to the Bonanza one we just did, where it's like, oh, this is our review of the game. It just is a good record to have, because we're going to continue to talk about that game every subsequent weeks. And especially me, I haven't made it that far yet. And I think I potentially, probably, favor something that I've just experienced. And I've been experiencing this as well in the Discord server, where I put together a slate of movies to watch every midnight throughout October. And I wanted to put movies like new horror movies or new spooky movies or black comedies or otherwise from last year and this year. And every time I go to my movie ranking on Letterboxd, it is normally recency bias weighted. Like, whenever I see a new movie, it's higher than it probably should be, and I don't often circle back to my ranking to fix it. So, in this server, we managed to rewatch Bring Her Back and Together and Friendship and The Monkey. And these are all movies that came out this year. And The Monkey is beneath all of those on my ranking. Bring Her Back is like top 5, I think. But upon rewatching them, I like The Monkey way more than all those other movies. And I was like, oh man, I really love this movie. Nobody ever talks about it. I should put it higher. And I think that's sort of happening now, where I'm in the early stages of a Pokemon game, where I haven't explored all the map, I haven't met all the characters, I haven't seen everything the game has to offer. So I have like a chip of childlike wonder and merriment and awe, where I'm like, oh, the world is my oyster. And this happens a lot. This happened with my Scarlet and Violet video I made in 22, that I had a much more favorable look at the game because I had just finished playing it. I didn't get some distance. And that's why I'm back to writing Letterboxd reviews this year, like whenever I see a movie, just because I like having my thoughts gathered somewhere. But the reason I stopped initially writing reviews is because as soon as the movie would end, like even while the credits were rolling, I would start writing a review. Even sometimes before the movie ended, I was like thinking about what I was going to say rather than engaging with the film. And they were always a lot stronger just because I like going to the theater a lot. And I've noticed this whenever I take other people to the movies. It's like, if it's a really bad movie, it would affect their mood, and they'll be like, oh, I just wasted 2 hours. Meanwhile, I just love being at the theater, so even if I see a shitty movie, I'm like, yeah, that was bad, but oh, I'm glad I'm at the movie theater. So much so that I will have a bias that if I saw a movie in a theater, I will like it more than if I like watched it on my TV or my computer. And I think I'm experiencing it with ZA, that all I have to say now is like, oh, this game's really fun. I think it's one of my favorites of this year. Just because, again, like we said with Mario Kart last time, it just has a baseline of being fun because it is Pokemon. Just like Mario Kart, even the worst Mario Kart has the baseline of being fun because it's Mario Kart. And maybe in the coming weeks, my tune will change and I'll sour on it a little bit and I'll have a more nuanced take on it. But right now, as of starting the game and playing it religiously, I really only have positive things to say about it, other than now learning that you don't get to go through all the letter ranks. But everything I experienced, I really like.
I would say, I kind of said this while you were gone, is, there were a lot of things I was skeptical about. I was skeptical about like the Lumio City setting, but so far I don't mind it. I think one thing I really like about it is that it's a different kind of world exploration. Because Legends Arceus, I keep mixing them up for some reason. It was just kind of open fields. Some may call them butt maps even, but and it was fun. It was the wilderness and stuff like that. But the way you kind of go up the buildings in Kalos, the elevators, the ladders, alphas on the ladders and stuff like that, all the TMs and stuff. It reminds me a lot of like old school Pokemon traversal, just because like there's a lot more lock and key mechanism there because I think in a lot of ways, you need a certain kind of move. They have like Rock Smash in this game, for example.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that, but you're right. I do love the re-implementation of HMs to guard your path.
Yeah, and the way it's kind of done is pretty fun. I don't know if I like the Mega Shards as much, just because it's just like it feels like something you always have to be doing. But like otherwise, I think I have a lot of fun like exploring, going up buildings and seeing what's up there. And I've never really like I didn't realize I would enjoy it as much as I did, but it's really cool doing that, especially when you find something you didn't expect to see, catch an alpha or whatever. That part of the game is really, really satisfying to me. I think also like the construction sites are pretty fun to do. There's literally like platforming in this game, which sounds something to be skeptical about, but I don't mind it. I think it's enjoyable. And you wouldn't really get that in the other open world games, because eventually with Koraidon and Miraidon, you can just brute force everything. And with the like I forget what they're called, the like elder Pokemon, I forget what they're like the Sneasler that can
Titans?
climb. Yeah, the Titans, like eventually you could just basically go anywhere you want, anytime you want. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of fun to kind of work your way up. But I do enjoy the old kind of, oh, okay, I'm trying to find a way to get to that building. That's not really as much of a thing in this game. I mean that is more of a thing in this game than you would get in like Scarlet and Violet or Arceus. So that's a part I actually do kind of have fun doing.
Yeah, because I've always said as of late that like, oh, maybe just in a nostalgic sense, like I wish Pokemon would do both 3D and 2D like Metroid, Zelda, and Mario do. I'd like to see another grid-based top-down Pokemon game. But I think this is an argument to the contrary, that Pokemon games are always going to be a level of linear when they're in that setup. Even like Kanto, which you can do gyms in different order, it's still going to be straight ahead routes. That the fact that there are like, you have waypoints in the game, like go to this wild zone, but then you could just climb a ladder and go to someone's roof and find something else that might be a little stronger than you, that you're, I'm not going to say not supposed to do, but like you have the option to not do that. There's a lot more freedom when it comes to that. And you could always backtrack. I will say, because you were just talking about traversal and platforming, it did take me a while to figure out that the run button was not a button you push or a button you hold while walking to run.
Dialogue. They tell you that like 4 times.
Well, I'm just saying it just, having played a Pokemon game, it takes a while to get used to that. If you hit the run button, it turns running on, and you hit it again, it turns it off. I'm not even saying that I didn't understand. I'm saying that like muscle memory, I kept holding down the button.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Yeah. I will say though, maybe I'm just not paying attention, or maybe I'm just straight up dumb, but after I caught my 7th Pokemon, I had to ask someone like, where's the box? Where do I access my Pokemon? Because they don't bring it up at all. And I'm not even saying this to be like, oh man, they didn't tell me to do this mechanic. I just think it's interesting that the box is not an in-universe mechanic. Like, I thought about this when I went back to go watch some footage from Sword and Shield, is because that was the first game where your box was always on you, like your PC box. They had to explain, like, they gave you a key item that was your PC box because they had to explain it in-game. And then the next game, they're just like, oh, no, you have your box on your phone, or whatever. And this game, they didn't even bother saying, like, hey, if you catch more than 6 Pokemon, they go to your box. Because they assume you know that, because that's just a mechanic built into it. I wish they made more assumptions, because there is a lot of tutorializing happening in that game, but that's just a Pokemon thing in general.
I feel bad for the Rotoms that are that are literally enslaved to live in phones forever and ever.
Yeah, that's what they're. So I think it's. I have no problem with the Rotom phone in like Sword and Shield, but I think it kind of devalues. Or sorry, Sun and Moon. I guess. No, that was just the Dex.
No, I love well, yeah, I love the talking Rotom deck so much.
Yeah,
It's so awesome.
but it works as a really like cool bottom screen mechanic. But the more the more they do it, the more it devalues it in those individual games, and it just is kind of that is the mechanic now. But there's a lot of that in that game. But yeah, I
One thing
really love.
I
I
hate
never. Oh no, go ahead.
is the fact that like okay, so this game doesn't have fall damage, and I like that. I think that's good. But I wish they did something else other than this like long ass sluggish animation where Rotom catches you. It's like we can we like make this short?
Well, it looks really jagged too. Like it seems last minute that you just snap into the phone place and it catches you. Yeah, I'd rather just like
Yeah.
plop on the ground.
Or like maybe like it doesn't do this thing. Yeah, you just kind of like stop in place. The Rotom pulls you. I feel like there's a way to kind of have Rotom save you or whatever. That's a lot less sluggish and just makes kind of traversal a little more interesting. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean they could just have the traversal Pokemon that they had in Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
The idea is that Legends Arceus was retooling the catching mechanics, and it seems like Legends ZA is retooling the battling mechanics. And obviously,
Yeah.
I no go on.
What do you think of the action battles?
I love the new battles. Granted, I'm still in the early game, so I haven't gotten to like, whenever you start a Pokemon game, you're just doing the move that you know does the most. Like maybe you're taking
Yeah.
type into account, but there's not a whole lot of strategy. So maybe when I get
Yeah.
to more difficult heaps and bounds in the game, I'll have more to say about it. But where I am right now, I'm just hitting the buttons that are on my
Yeah.
face. And maybe it never steers away from that. Maybe you're just always hitting buttons. But I've elected to just kind of use my starter nonstop with a rotational 5 next to it. So that's just where I'm at right now. But I'm glad you brought up the Rock Smash thing as a convenient way to roadblock you. Granted, there are some annoying ways to roadblock you in the early game when you're like you have to follow your rival and you have to chase down the Pancham and you see a Pokeball or Mega Shards down an alleyway and you try and turn down that way and then a text box shows up. It's like, oh no, you should be following me. Once you're past that, I mean, everyone knows the infamy of early Pokemon game that you have to go through all the dialogue and that set everything up for you, and you can't explore as much as you really, really want to. Although I did do the best I could with those 6 wild zones before I even fought Yvonne. But I like those natural roadblocks, or I guess these are unnatural ones, but they kind of blend more in with the city. Granted, the fact that there's rocks and sludge and thorns around doesn't really make sense for the city, but I do still like it. And I think I've gone on record saying this before as an enjoyer of like older Pokemon games. I never disliked HMs. I think the issue was that there were too many HMs, but I never thought that HMs were inherently an issue. And I think when we did away with them I think it was Sun and Moon was when they first went away with them, we
Sun and Moon,
lost
yeah.
a certain level of like fun puzzles. Like you could still push strength boulders, but beyond that there were no real like rock smash strength ice puzzles. And those were always my favorite parts of older top-down Pokemon games, which is strange to say. And even in Sword and Shield, like Sword and Shield Onward, gym puzzles themselves also kind of went away, which was disappointing because the puzzles were always my favorite part of the gym. So earlier when I said that like, oh, my dream is for the Pokemon game to be more like the Pokemon show, the monkey's paw curls and it gets rid of gym puzzles, which is something that the game the game has that the show doesn't, that I actually really like. But I'm glad that presumably, seemingly, ZA still has or has brought back those HMs, but they're not literal HMs. They're just TMs that you unlock because you have to unlock all the TMs.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, well, you can also find TMs on the ground, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's as deep as like strength puzzles and stuff. And to be honest, I think it could be executed better. But I still just like the premise of my Pokemon are helping me traverse the world. That's the thing about I mean, I remember like Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, or the remix, the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. They kind of try to do this half measure where it's like, oh, you just like use your Pokechap to get a wild Pokemon to do it for you. Like, quality of life wise, that was good, but like thematically, it's stupid as hell. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I'd probably say the same thing for like the ride Pokemon in Sun and Moon. It's just like, oh, you just like summon these ride Pokemon at any time. It's like, oh, is that okay? I don't know. It's a little bit silly. Um, though I mean, I understand why they do it. Like, but I think that yeah, HMs are hard to get right, but I feel like there is a value to when you get them right. I mean, one thing I've liked about the newer Pokemon games, they've kind of, at least this one, I think some other games have embraced it, is the idea of your Pokemon like instead of only knowing 4 moves, there's like a list of moves they know, and they can only like bring in 4 at a time. I find that
Yeah, I
so
do
much
like
more
that.
interesting, so much more fun because it lets you kind of mix and match. I've kind of gone back between like in this game specifically, sometimes stronger moves are stronger, but they, have a higher cooldown time, or maybe like for example, like the move Brave Bird, it has recoil. So like, it's deciding, oh, which one do I want to use now? Do I want to, it's like it's more fun that way. I've always disliked the punishing system of like, oh, you need to like forget your moves at this like one part of in this one area in the entire game. And if you want to like relearn a move, you need to like get a bunch of heart scales, which are a pain in the ass to get. It's just it's a bit too punishing for me. And I just find it's more fun to mix and match. That's one thing I like about the mints as well. I like that about hyper training. It just means that like, oh yeah, this Pokemon that you spent the entire game with, yeah, if you want to like play the game like competitively, you're just gonna have to like release them and like Ivy breed and Eevee, just train the shit out of like them until you get like
Right.
631 or whatever. That's one thing about the newer Pokemon games that I actually really like is they've just kind of they've made everything a little bit more modular, and it's I think it's better that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like I have no qualms with people wanting to play Pokemon competitively, but I do think that the same people that tend to complain about how easy Pokemon games are tend to always use the same 6 Pokemon that are just really, really powerful. And if you want a challenge in the game, you should just use different Pokemon that you otherwise wouldn't have used. And that kind of circles back to the usage or the context of TMs and HMs that early on in ZA, like without Rock Smash being a necessity, I don't think anyone would be using Bunnelby and Diggersby. But because of it, like it's a permanent fixture, at least for a little bit of your team. You want to keep that Bunnelby around because it can use Rock Smash. And this is probably the most I've ever used a Bunnelby ever. Which I
Yeah,
like.
same.
I like that it gives you an excuse to do so. And I try not to, because I've changed my tune a lot when it comes to Smash Bros. I've liked Smash Bros. My entire life. And when I was younger, and I was just breaking, and I was like bad at it, like really bad at Smash. I thought competitive Smash was stupid. I was like, oh, these people are, oh, they only like playing on Final Destination with one character and no items. That's not even playing the game. But that's like obviously a gross mischaracterization of the competitive scene. And then
Mhm.
I started liking it a little bit more, but because I really liked Ultimate and wanted people to play Ultimate, I felt the same way, but only about Melee. I was like, oh no, competitive Smash is fun. It's just Melee that's really lame. They're always playing the same game and the same characters. And maybe it's me, like, changing my tune. Maybe it's Melee itself, like, having more top players that play different characters. But I've since really come around and love competitive Melee. So I don't want to make any sweeping generalizations like, oh man, competitive Pokemon really ruins the Pokemon game. Because I'm sure as soon as I get into competitive Pokemon, I'll change my tune. But I do think that there is
Mhm.
value in, using weaker Pokemon that you otherwise would not have used. Pokemon fans aren't at the same level as Animal Crossing fans that were creating like cute ethno states in 2020 where they only
Yeah,
liked the
right.
villagers they liked and refused to acknowledge any other slightly uglier villager. But on top of that,
uh,
the
2020
reason,
was a nightmare.
yeah, I was thinking about that. There was somebody, or there's a trend now of people playing ukulele covers of songs from 2020 and 2021 and all the like Dream SMP Bo Burnham stuff and other people like
God.
linking like cringy videos from the time, and I'm watching them like, oh man, this is ridiculous. Can you believe people were this into like Minecraft streamers? And then I because how soon we forget, I'm like, oh wait, no, there was a pandemic. People were like trapped inside. I saw another thing because if we want to go to my ranking, I over the weekend saw after the hunt in theaters, and I really, really liked it. I was surprised that so many people didn't like it. It's from the same director as Challengers. I didn't like it as much as Challengers, obviously, because that was my favorite film of last year. But I also saw The Black Phone 2, which was not good, and I have thoughts on The Black Phone 2, but it's not really relevant. Just all I could say about it is spoilers. But the grabber from Fortnite, dies at the end of The Black Phone. And prior to that, he wasn't really a supernatural being. So just imagine being that writer or that director, and the studio's like, hey, we're making a Black Phone 2, and the grabber's coming back. And you have to write a way for the grabber to come back and still be dead, and also keep the Black Phone in the movie. And the movie is ridiculous. But I saw a post, and before I went to go see it in theaters, I rewatched The Black Phone 1, which is also like, it's better, but it's still silly. And then I saw a Twitter post the other day that said, oh, The Black Phone 2 made $100,000 more million than The Black Phone 1. And I was like, yeah, The Black Phone 1 came out in 2021. Of course the box office is great. Who was seeing movies in 2021? But for a frame, I legitimately forgot that happened. And it's the same thing when I look back to 2022. Like you said earlier, like, oh, it doesn't feel that long ago. But we were still kind of in lockdown in 2022, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I forget when I think it was around then that like they started doing like, oh, you don't have to wear your mask here or there or whatever. But like there was like at least a good year and a half where, you know, I was wearing a mask to the grocery store or like any like public space. Yeah, I was wearing that shit. But I think by like because I know like throughout, I'm trying to remember, I'm pretty sure that like in 2021 I was wearing a mask to classes. But I think like that wasn't a requirement anymore. Like it was, I think, only around a good year where like at least my classes required everyone to wear a mask. But you know, it's changed a lot. You know, I think but we forget that. You know, I think in general like the COVID pandemic really I don't know. I guess maybe, I mean, it's not like I lived through the Spanish flu. It really was like a real change in pace for American and worldwide society too, you know? I mean, everyone talks about like businesses before and after COVID, you know? I know a lot of places like where I live that closed up because they couldn't weather the storm, you know?
Yeah, I don't remember why I brought this up, this specific pandemic. Something about...
Oh, the movie tickets. It was just, you know...
Yeah, but I brought that up for a reason too, to have the effect of the pandemic of it all. I don't remember, but
well, I guess yeah.
Well, there's no more. I mean, we will have in the coming weeks. We will have more to say. We'll have more to say about Pokemon Legends ZA, and I'll try and get a lot more hours in the game before next week, and hopefully I won't catch up because obviously you're gonna keep playing it. That I'll see if my opinion changes. But as far as this show goes, not only was last week on Switch to Ultra, last time, we were talking about ZA as it was about to come out, but also around that time is when the leak stuff started rolling out. And that is also why it's been hard to avoid spoilers. I mean, even without the leak, people who have the game in their hands would be posting their stuff immediately. That so much so that I was just scrolling to find this thing, and I was getting flashbanged by spoilers. I was trying to scroll really quickly. That I know people in the chat and also us on stream, as far as Legends ZA goes, didn't want any spoilers. But we sort of touched on it last time. But now I think I have a better understanding that the Terra leak that happened earlier this year, or late last year, I think it was late last year leading into earlier this year, this is not a different leak at all. The same person in the same Discord server who has all the information said that they would leak more information the week of ZA's release. And that the week of ZA's release came and went, and they released a lot more information in this, quote, Terra leak. So all the information that's worth talking about is the project plans for the upcoming Pokemon games. Because we know that Legends ZA comes out 2025, and then ZA DLC comes out early 2026. What I think is more worth talking about is the stuff that comes in the years after that. And I don't know if you looked into any more of these leaks since we left off the previous week. Did you hear anything more about this?
You sent, not really. I mean, you sent me one thing that kind of implied that It might have been fake, but I don't know exactly all the
Oh,
details
that was a
about it.
logo thing. I mean, I said before that like people credit Central Leaks, or whenever they make a YouTube video, they're like, "Oh, credit Central Leaks," but Central Leaks is just like a hub of posting other stuff. And
Yeah.
it's been interesting to see Central Leaks as of late, because on the main account, and I don't trust anyone with a blue check mark on Twitter to begin with, but there's an arc happening now that apparently there's several like image posts over on the secondary Central League, and I've been avoiding them because some of them are development material for Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet, and some of them are later games, but a lot of them were leaks when it came to ZA, so I didn't want to know any of that. So I'm reading this right now that Mr. Takato Utsunomoya, the chief operating officer of the Pokemon Company, says, quote, has personally sent an email to Central Leaks to take down the Pokemon leaked images. So all I've seen nonstop are just memes of people being like, oh, the Nintendo ninjas are going to have this dude in the Iron Bowl. That he seems to, like, for whatever reason, feels very strongly about this. And he's like, I'm not going to let bullies take my stuff down. And what I have seen is Nintendo, or I guess the Pokemon Company, taking down images from the other account, the not Central Leaks account. So I wasn't going to show it anyway, but now even more so, like, videos have been taken down that have featured it, so it's just not worth showing it. But a lot of it that interests me is just the product plan moving forward, which is that the plan, what I understand from the Terra leak is that I don't know if there is still a breach and if this person is gaining more information, or if this is the same information from the breach at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So all of the information
is the same information, but
yeah,
I could be wrong.
Well, what I'm saying is that like the games, like, oh, this is the upcoming game, I don't think they'll be canceled because they were leaked. I remember when earlier this year when ZA leaked it, people were like, oh shit, they're gonna cancel the game. It's like, no way
Imagine
are they doing that.
It's like, yeah. It's like this, like let's like just throw away like a year's worth of like developer paychecks and money spent on developing this game.
That's that Masahiro Sakurai mindset. But what I'm getting at is that the fact that this is like a leak from last year or earlier this year, not that they would have changed plans because of the leak, but it's possible that these plans would just change anyway. Because what we also learned last time is that Legends ZA originally began development as a Legends Johto game, which explains the Totodile and Chikorita starters, that it's two Johto starters. And I said earlier, my initial disappointment was that it wasn't a Legends Johto game set in the past, which I would have preferred. But it seems the Legends series, which they're now fully leaning into because of how well Legend Arceus did. I thought for a second that maybe it was going to go mainline game Legends, or mainline game DLC Legends, mainline game DLC remake, like traditional remake, new Pokemon game. But this product plan, and again, this is subject to change, says that late 2026 will feature Generation 10. It's codenamed Winds and Waves, which is about traversing islands and delving underwater. And the thing that I sent you that was apparently fake by Central Leaks was just a logo that was found by an artist on 4chan. Like, maybe they just searched up Wind and Waves and found that, or they are just spreading misinformation on purpose.
Okay. Yeah.
And then after that, or early 2027 is Winds and Waves DLC. And then late 2027 is a Legends game set in the Galar region. And that one, all the other things seem to be just text on a piece of paper, or rather, a paste bin. But the Legends Galar game seems to have a lot of concept art for it. But again, that's subject to change. It could have begun as a Galar game and then changed to something else. So it seems like the timeline is ZA DLC, Gen 10, which is Winds and Waves, Legends Galar, and then some kind of like huge MMO in 2028 as it takes place in the original it takes place in the original 4 generations. And I think we talked about this too before. That is the idea that like someone comes up with, that they're like, oh, there should be a Pokemon game set in several generations and you could walk from one generation to the other. But the first question that always comes up with that is pacing. Like, how do you pace that?
Yeah, like, are you like supposed to do like all the leagues, or that's the thing I've always wondered. Like, is that it? I mean, would you scale it like a normal Pokemon game? I think that's one of the big questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
I
would
think
need
the
to
answer
raise
would
the
be
level cap, or at
no.
least make it harder to level up, which would be
Yeah.
annoying in its own right.
Yeah, it's like you can't level up your Hydreigon until like three like regions in.
Yeah, I know I just got done saying that, like, oh, it's been so long since we got, like, a new Pokemon game. But I did like the timeline of each year being new generation, and then the next year is DLC for that new generation, and then the next year is a remake of some sort or going back to a previous generation, and then the year after that is a new generation. So we'd be getting a new generation every 3 or 4 years. I guess this is a 4 year gap between Generation 9 and Generation 10. But the way this is set up, it makes it seem like, yeah, 25 is ZA, Gen 10 is 26, and 27 is a Legends game again, and then 28 is a fully new game. So they're still getting DLC, right? We're getting, according to this, ZA DLC and then Gen 10 DLC, but they're not the only release in that year. Like, it's not Sword and Shield and then Sword and Shield DLC and then Legends Arceus. It's not Scarlet and Violet and then Scarlet and Violet DLC and then Legends ZA. We're still getting a major game each year. The DLC is just in the middle of that, which I think kind of goes against the whole, like, giving them more time to develop games. Granted, this could just be ahead of delays, because all of this stuff could easily be delayed. I imagine Legends ZA was delayed. But the fact that we're getting ZA DLC and Gen 10 DLC, again, according to this Terra leak, and they're on top of years with other major games, it seems like it's too close together. Like, I don't want to campaign for less Pokemon games, obviously, but this seems too much too soon, if that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the Switch 2 goes. I mean, moving forward, I think the excitement of Gen 10 is not only, like, it's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, it's the 10th generation, but it will also be the first Pokemon game developed with the Switch 2 in mind. And that's where the asterisk in ZA comes in. I, on my feed, have seen nothing but positivity and excitement about Pokemon Legends ZA. Right? But I also haven't seen anyone playing it on the Switch 1 posting about it. So it's possible that playing it on the Switch 1 is just an egregious experience that I haven't seen at all.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, I don't know. I think the fact that like all the buildings are completely flat might help its performance on the Switch 1. That's getting a lot of shit, and I get it. Though I'm not, like, particularly bothered by it. I think I think it's more the lighting of Pokemon games that, like, I don't really enjoy.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes with these Pokemon games, is you play it, and I think Scarlet and Violet is the only one I had issue with because the game crashed, which does get in the way of gameplay. That, I don't want to say that these aren't issues, right? Because there are other Nintendo games that are better optimized, and they don't look like this. And I wouldn't ever sing the praises of a modern Pokemon game and call it beautiful, aside from maybe a few towns that I like the design of. But it's not something you actually notice while playing the game. Like, I can watch people on YouTube and Twitter, like, zoom in and draw a red circle around a texture. But while I'm playing the game, it doesn't affect my gameplay. It doesn't affect my enjoyment of the game at all. And maybe that's going to get pushback of people being like, oh, these guys don't even care about the quality of their game. But I saw another post of somebody rolling around in some fucking ninja game and their clothes weren't getting wet. And they're like, wow, a $70 game and there's no attention to detail. Like, when did we stop caring about the gameplay aspects of things? I like attention to detail in games, like maybe a butterfly lands on your nose or whatever. I think it's cute. But that is not the end-all, be-all of video games. If the gameplay isn't fun, then sure. And in Scarlet and Violet, the choppiness and the crashing affected the gameplay, but none of the buildings being solid textures has affected my enjoyment of Legends ZA at all. Doesn't really bother me.
I don't think the game would look like, at least for me, like that measurably better with like better I mean, it would look better, but I don't think it would really mean that much to me if the buildings were actually not flat, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the whole thing with Pokemon in general, is just the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, I think Pokemon, at least for me, is just very fun. Like, you know, it's funny. I refused to buy Sword and Shield when it first came out. But then eventually I played it and I beat it in like a matter of days because like I don't know, it's fun to train Pokemon. It's fun to train Pokemon. It's fun to build your team. It's fun to watch the Pokemon grow. Nowadays, I mean honestly, like we take for granted nowadays, a lot of these cute little play with your Pokemon features that we didn't have in the past. I remember when Harkle and Soul Silver had Pokemon following you, how big of a deal that was to me. Like that alone made them my favorite Pokemon games. But nowadays you can do that in so many games. You can like bring out all your team at once. You can kind of like
can you do that in this?
Pokemon.
That was gonna be my only complaint about
at
ZA.
The bench. That's you can't just like throw out all your Pokemon willy nilly.
Which you can do in Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
That's the only mechanic I really miss.
Up the controller space and kind of stuff like that. And
yeah, but you could just cycle through the D-pad anyway.
Yeah, and I think they also just did that so it'd be easier to integrate like I guess in-world like live battling and the just the traversal thing. I think that's the main reason, so that the Pokemon you have out is the Pokemon you use in battles, especially with wild encounters. Because like I think in Arceus, like if you wanted to, it would still kind of try and turn things into a turn-based kind of combat system when you kind of like attack wild Pokemon or battle them and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, I'd love the mechanics of Legends Arceus. So anything that I have bad to say about ZA is probably just anything switching from that specific gameplay loop. I want to say, Twitch chat said earlier, the only thing about graphics I care about is when the water doesn't look appealing to me. Pogged Peter, have you by chance ever had a Miiverse account? Because I think we may have placed a very specific Miiverse user. You're constantly talking about water in video games.
That's an all-time poster.
Also, the chat says the only game I expect good graphics for is GTA 6. I saw another, I forget which streamer it was, but I think somebody was recounting the clip to me, so I couldn't even tell you who it was, of like watching the GTA 6 trailer, the one we've seen, of like them shaking ass and like their sweat pouring down their pores, and they pause the trailer and they're like, okay, but where's the game? Like, when does it get fun? Like, any game could have, like, oh, you could see all the individual pores, the character sweats in real time, but that's not the gameplay, you know?
It's like, is this porn? Like,
yeah.
Is this like porn we're watching? Like,
I hate to keep going to the fucking, if the game's not fun, why bother? Well, but legitimately, what is the purpose of playing video games if not to have fun playing the video game? I'm not gonna stare at it.
Because, yeah, I mean, I don't think we've really seen... I mean, there was that leak. There was a leak where, like, some, like, early gameplay footage was, like, gameplay...
For GTA 6.
Build of the game. Yeah, for GTA 6 kind of was revealed. But I don't think there's been an official, like, gameplay trailer so far. At least that I know of.
No, not really.
It's mostly just been trailers that feel more like movie trailers than anything. Which, I mean, to be fair, like, I think the single player experience of Grand Theft Auto games is often a selling point. You know, I love the San Andreas story. A lot of people don't like the GTA 5 story, but I kind of like it. It's kind of stupid, but it's still fun.
Right.
And like, I don't know. I mean, I think that's an element of the game that's kind of fun. So I don't entirely blame people for. I don't blame Rockstar for kind of showing it off. But yeah, we haven't really seen the game yet, and it's like. I mean, I want to see the game. Like what does robbing look like? How do you what's the best way to make money? And I think that's a fun part of GTA that they're kind of skimping out on right now. But to be honest, I think GTA 6 is kind of the game that's too big to fail in the sense of like I feel like there is enough. Effort behind it that I assume it's going to be fun. Like I would be very surprised if GTA 6 isn't a good game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game.
It might be overpriced, but
I was going to say I hope all these people that are constantly complaining about Nintendo Online, I hope they have the same attention and vigor for when GTA is going to be like $80. I sure hope they have the same rage, but I know that they won't.
Yeah, because they don't. Well, I mean, low key, I was about to say because they don't play baby games, but GTA kind of is a baby game.
Yeah.
But like, it's not a Scrimbo Bimblo game, so I feel like it's not going to kind of catch that same Nintendo-ish discourse.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still probably going to get hate for whatever it
Yeah,
costs. I mean, I
it
think
feels
that's
like
like
just stuck between a
inevitable.
rock and a hard place because any maneuverability will get like labeled as like a Nintendo show. But I feel like, especially as of late, there's such like a huge misinformation problem about the
Hmm.
prices, about patents when it comes to Nintendo, about anything with these games that I think people just want. I don't know. I don't know if it's people who never liked Nintendo complaining about it or people who feel like personally slighted by Nintendo or maybe just an excuse to not buy things and not have to miss out on anything. But and also maybe it's, profitable because I've seen a lot of, you put Mario in the thumbnail and you'd be like this Nintendo game fucking sucks. And then a bunch of
Nintendo
people
has
watch it.
forgotten. Yeah.
And these are videos for preteens who just stopped playing Nintendo games and they want to feel cool playing their Call of Duty or fucking FIFA or whatever. And it's like, yeah, if they do suck, they are gay. That I
Yeah,
think they have valid criticisms, but I feel like a lot of the shit is just straight up made up.
yeah. I mean, that's what I was talking earlier about. Like, oh man, there's like a valuable discussion to be had here, but everyone's just talking about it with in like such bad faith that it's just kind of annoying to talk about. I remember that. I'm sure you've seen it. That one thumbnail of the guy calling like ZA like an overpriced disaster or whatever, and it has fucking Shigeru Miyamoto in the title,
Yeah,
like or like the thumbnail. It's like, come
had
on,
nothing to
come
do
on.
with the game.
It's like it's like that meme. I think it's like 50 Cent saying, "What are you saying fuck me for?" You know what I mean? Like, what did he
Mm-hmm.
even do? It's like, it's just it's I don't know. I mean, I guess Shigeru Miyamoto is like recognizable, but I guess it's like, are we really gonna get like a meaningful discussion about this when you're like using Shigeru Miyamoto as the unofficial like no?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the big one of the big frustrating things is that I feel like I don't know. We can aspire for better than this, and I don't get the impression that I don't know. I'm like talking shit about a video I haven't seen, so I could be wrong. I imagine like that video is just a guy kind of complaining, and there's like just like unedited game footage in the background. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I don't know. I guess when everyone has a voice, everyone has a voice. You know what I mean? And it turns out, a lot of people aren't that thoughtful all the
My
time.
annoyance in it is like I don't think that the frustration is unjustified. I just think that it's weird that it's specifically targeted at Nintendo. When I think that like if you go to any other distributor or manufacturer as far as like getting the most bang for your buck, Nintendo is not the only company releasing $70 to $80 games. Like if you go to any like deluxe edition for a game, it's like 120, and they're going
Yeah,
to get worse. I think, and again, I'm not saying like, oh, the fucking brokies complaining about this, because I think, again, these are all valid criticisms and frustrations. It's just weird to frame it like a greed thing from one company and not just the ballooning of the industry on top of tariffs, just ruining everything for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might just be looking at certain kinds of people. I
Mm-hmm.
think a big thing is that, and I'll be honest. I guess you could argue I'm kind of in this category. I don't really play a lot of the big non-Nintendo AAA games. I've never really been into like Call of
Mm.
Duty. I never had a PlayStation growing up, so I haven't played a lot of games like The Last of Us or a lot of those big AAA games. I kind of do at some point, but there's just a lot of so like I'm very much this like Scrimbo Blimblo target audience
Mm-hmm.
that most of my gaming nowadays is usually Nintendo and stuff. So I mean I think a lot of people just don't really play a lot of the other like AAA kind of Western games that do a lot of the same things. I think
Mm-hmm.
also one thing that people don't like about Nintendo specifically is the fact that Nintendo none of their games very rarely go on sale. A lot of other like developers, eventually the game gets like sold like dirt cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Nintendo's like very hesitant to ever do that. It's like fucking Princess Peach Showtime is still 59.99. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I think that's an element that also kind of gets on people's nerves. Um, I don't know. I think that at least one game that I still haven't gotten despite loving its predecessor. I haven't gotten Civ 7 yet.
Mm.
Because well, first of all, I haven't heard a lot of good things about it, but like it's I remember someone once saying, and they were definitely right, that the first thing everybody says when the new Civ game comes out is that it sucks and you should just play the old one with mods. That happened with Civ 6 too, and like everyone now says that was a great game. I think like there's just I don't know. people complain a lot, you know, like whether they should complain or not. I think a lot of times, you know, it's probably, as I said, there probably is like some value to having like very negative, annoying fans, because like that probably does push Game Freak in the right direction sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot about in general with HMs, even though you can argue they overcorrected, I think Game Freak has been uh what's the word, receptive to you know, criticism regarding, you know, quality of life and stuff like that. And that's one good thing about the games, like about the modern games, that I think a lot of people kind of forget about. You know, there's a lot of things that are a lot more fun to do in like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet than, like, I don't know, Emerald, as much as I love Emerald. I don't know, you know, I think it, it's hard to get a gauge for like what people actually think about a video game that just came out, because like uh the discourse is always the worst it's ever been. Like, it's, you know, I feel like it's a shame. It seems that like the conversation about anything always sucks while it's happening.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
then a
like,
week or so after the game's release, it's like, dude, this game fell off. Nobody's talking about it anymore.
yeah, that's another thing, is that it's like it's a rock and a hard place, I guess. You know, either like everyone's being reductive and annoying about whatever just came out, or it fell off and no one's talking about it anymore. You know, those are the only two options.
I mean, if you want to have the argument of like video game quality, I know it's not an objective, so everyone has different opinions. But 2025 is really not the year to be having it, because I think this is the first year, you know, in the last couple of years that Nintendo has one of the best games, if not the best game of the year, or at least my favorite game of the year. Like last year was Astrobot. Nintendo, anything they released last year didn't get anywhere close to Astrobot.
What was your favorite Nintendo game last year?
Oh man, my favorite Nintendo game last year? I'm trying to even remember. I guess the Thousand Year Door remake, maybe? Because what else was it? It was Brothership, it was Princess Peach's Showtime, it was Mario versus Donkey Kong.
2024 was such a nothing year. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess like at least for like first person Nintendo games, I'll that's my asterisk. But like, not first person, first party.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like
But I do
yeah,
try
I
and do
think
my best, like you said, to play things outside of the sphere. I played the new Monster Hunter, I played the new Doom. I haven't played that I haven't played Silksong. I haven't played the Sonic Racing game. I haven't played that dating everything game, and maybe I won't. I didn't play Expedition 33. I didn't play the Oblivion remake, but those are like the main things I've heard about this year. I don't know if there's anything I missed or any other commotion for any other. I'm sure there's some indie Steam game that you could play with your friends. I'm trying to do my best to not say friend slop anymore, because
it's so fun calling
it
things
is
friend
so
swap.
easy to say. But
I remember I retweeted it, like the post where someone said that the new Bubsy game was movement slop.
yeah,
And I just ate that shit up. It was so funny to me.
I haven't played that either. But beyond that, I don't know if there's any other game. Like, I think that encompasses every game this year. I mean, Deltarune's really high up there. I've been thinking about it nonstop, and I had a lot of fun with that. But I still think Bonanza's my favorite thing I've played this year.
It's hard to call anything by Deltarune the best, because, or by Deltarune, yeah, Deltarune, the creator of Deltarune.
Yeah,
No,
Toby
because it's
Deltarune.
not done.
Yeah.
That's the annoying. I think that's part of why that I've always kind of sort of not really talked shit, but I've never liked the, oh yeah, this game is still coming out kind of thing. It's just like, oh,
I
yeah,
like it with that game because there is a mystery to it that it's fun to like unravel over time. It's sort of like a TV show releasing episodes and seasons regularly. It's the closest I
Yeah.
felt to something like the Owl House or Gravity Falls.
Interesting. Yeah, you might be right. I think it's just not something I was used to. So I remember like I remember the day Chapter 1 of Deltarune came out. I was telling my friend like, dude, Undertale 2 came out today. And then I finished it and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's like more. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 3 years later,
Yeah, maybe
I'm in
the
college.
weight would weigh on me more because I think the next
Yeah.
chapter comes out next year, and I played Deltarune for the first time last year. So for me,
Yeah.
it's been
One-
like every year. So maybe if I had to do the 4 or 3 year wait, I would have had a less favorable look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I mean, it's especially since I wasn't like, it's funny. I feel like when things are like there, I kind of, I kind of enjoy things in cycles. Like, there's the whole joke people make, like, oh, every 2 years I get back really into Minecraft. That's the whole joke.
Mm-hmm. I've been playing it recently.
And like, I've had that before. I feel like Deltarune Chapter 1 came out at a point in my life where, I mean, it had been a couple years since Undertale came out. I wasn't over it. I still considered it a game I loved, but I wasn't like, I was kind of at the point where I didn't really want more Undertale. Not in the sense that I was against having it, but I wasn't like thrilled about it. I was like, oh, cool, new Undertale. I guess I'll kind of play it. But I wasn't like into it enough to really participate in like the fandom.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I felt kind of left out because I didn't get into it in the first place.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like because like I've never like watched like many like Deltarune theory videos, and like because of that, I feel like that's a whole axis of the game that I just never got into because like I don't know, I just played the games and didn't really talk like kind of engage, and I think the fan
mm-hmm.
Like community about it, and I think because of that, like I don't feel like I've actually played them even though I have. I don't know.
Yeah. There's this thing I've been doing recently with the games I play, and this is either something I talked about on a different stream or on this show, that I do feel very strongly about spoilers, because to me, anything I don't know is a spoiler. Like, even if someone's like, oh, dude, there's like something that happens later, it's like, I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know the color of the next level before I get there. I want it all to be an untainted experience. So what I do whenever I play this year Donkey Kong Bonanza or Deltarune or even Pokemon recently, is when I get off stream, like I can't play it anymore, but I want to keep thinking about it and consuming it and maybe like seeing what stuff I missed where I've already been. I will watch other streamers play the game, but only up to where I got, and then I'll stop watching. And then I'll progress a little bit more, and then I'll go back and watch them. So I don't see anything forward, but I want to see how everyone else experienced the same thing. And it's sort of like watching episodes over and over again. And I've had this conversation before where obviously I prefer to watch a new episode of a series every week instead of just binging a show all at once. But even then, like, the individual episodes don't tend to stand out as much if I watch them one time, right? They need to kind of be in rotation. And because I've wanted to show episodes of The Chair Company and new episodes of Smiling Friends to friends and family, whatever, I've watched these episodes multiple times, and it's made me enjoy them more. And by the way, review, last night's Smiling Friends episode was my favorite of the season so far. I'm a little disappointed that we have to wait a gap week until a new episode, because the next episode is a Halloween one, and it would have made more sense to release it at the end of October as opposed to early November. But apparently early November is when Halloween is in Australia, so maybe it makes more sense for Michael Cusack. But on top of that, I watched the episode of Ha Ha You Clowns, which aired right after, and I've been watching the new HBO show Chair Company every week. So Sundays have been like at 8 p.m. a new Chair Company goes on Max, and then I go to Adult Swim and it shows a new Smiling Friends and a new Ha Ha You Clowns. And then like later, I want to show my roommates or friends or partners the same show, so I watch the episodes again, and it makes me like it more. So the same thing with like a video game, where I don't know if I could remember what I was doing in the middle of Bonanza, but I remember like specific dialogue bits in the beginning of ZA, because not only did I experience it, but I watched my friends play it, my partner play it, like other streamers play it, that it helps. I can understand why in school they had us write down stuff now, because it does help me remember a little bit. Sure, in a year's time I'm going to forget I even had this conversation, but my point still stands, at least for the autumn.
Yeah, I mean, I parrot this so often because, I don't know, I guess it's something I very strongly believe, is that, like, there's no bigger lie that anyone will tell you that's bigger. No, there's probably some bigger lies. There's probably some fucked up things people say.
No, keep committing.
But I feel like one thing people might kind of get the impression of is that you should only watch a movie once, or you should only read a book once, or you should only play a game once, or listen to a song once. I think, I feel like I've never had, I think, a meaningful thought. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
We're gonna end the sentence there.
I've never had a meaningful thought. Some people would agree with that, but like, I think there's so much joy I get out of replaying games or rewatching stuff. You catch on to things so much sooner, so much earlier. You know, I think one thing, and I know I'm not the only person who occasionally struggles with this. You know, let's say the first episode, you watch a new show, like a new show, you've never seen it before. Like you sometimes have trouble keeping track of who's who. Like that's a thing I struggle with a lot. I know I'm not the only one. I'm not like that stupid. So occasionally I'll see characters and I'm not like I'm not, like it's like the first time I see them, I'm like not sure if they're like an extra or like a one-time character or not. And because of that, I think there's a lot of things, especially when you first watch a show, you're not picking up on because you're not used to the pace of storytelling. So because of that, like when you like rewatch the show, everything makes so much more sense. Because like, oh, you know who these characters are. You know, I'll be honest. You know, like when the first couple episodes of The Wire that I watched, I had trouble keeping track of who was who. Especially because like, oh, okay, all these characters, like, well, this guy works for this department, this character works for that department, and it's like I don't fucking remember that shit. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to like just like hear that and immediately know for the rest of your life that they're that person. You know, it's the same thing with real life. So because of that, you know, I feel like you're already not there's already so much you don't understand or you aren't following about the show, like just by the first time you watch it. And eventually I think you do kind of catch up and figure out like who's who, but often you'll forget like why characters have a specific kind of relationship, you know, because you know, you forgot that they did a certain thing because there's another character that looks kind of like them, and you had a little bit of trouble telling which character was which, you know, when you first started, you know?
I've experienced that with Succession. The more and more people I make watch it with me or show it to, that there's little details and character in idiosyncrasies and intricacies that I notice while watching. It's like, oh, that so much so that it's one of the few shows that the more I watch it, the higher up it goes on my ranking. Like, I like it more and more. It's one of my favorite shows. I would highly recommend it for you, I think. I gotta get Slipmaker on the convincing you to watch it.
Dude, you know one show Slipmaker got me into that I will thank him forever is the show Pushing Daisies. I don't know if you've seen that. That show fucking rocks. It's kind of it's like you know, it's 2 seasons. It's pretty short. But it's like quirky, but it's also lovable. It's so fun. It was made in the mid 2000s, and it occasionally uses like 3D CGI. So sometimes it looks like a PS2 game for some reason. It's so awesome. I love that show so much. But yeah.
I think that like, is. No, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Just as far as. And we're all excited moving forward about this game, and I wish I could say that as soon as I go off stream today that I'm just going to immediately go back to playing ZA, but I have to, I guess like Christmas morning, go to bed and try and wake up or to get my sleep in, so I'm excited for when I get to play ZA again, because maybe it's just Pokemon, or maybe it is this game that I am excited to play it. And I felt that way about Bonanza, but I don't think I felt that way really about, maybe other than like the Switch launch in general. It all feels like Christmas when you're an adult and buying it for yourself. That I don't think there will be any additional information in the Terra League. I think we didn't break the story, but you know, it was rolling out in real time as we were streaming last week. And we were like trying to pick up on all that. And I think we, you know, vetted most of the important stuff. I think the funniest thing about it is that Central League seems to be going to war with the Pokemon Company. Seems to be a real interesting Twitter character. And then all that really matters is that I don't want to be a spoiler, is the slate of games moving forward. And like the list of megas we got months and months ago, and we will circle back to that as well and see how many of our megas were correct. I will say, I don't know if you've seen
of some of my mega drawings. I'm proud of some of them.
I was gonna say I haven't gotten to the megas in the game yet, but I've been spoiled on, well, quote unquote spoiled. I've seen one specifically, one very long-legged mega, and I just want to say that I was absolutely right. My joke answer is what they ended up going with, and I so far one of my megas is correct. So I'm shooting 1 for 1. We'll see how the others turn out. And I think that I will have more to say, maybe negative or positive. I will form more strong opinions. But as far as these leaks go, I don't think we're going to get any more information. So we will say more and more, and then like Hyrule Warriors will come out, Air Riders will come out. Come to think of it, that Air Riders Direct has to come someday soon if it has to happen before Air Riders release, because they did say it would be before Air Riders release. But as of right now, I fear I only have a little bit to say about ZA. I'm going to stop opening up Twitter to check for news because I feel like I'm going to spoil myself. And those are my concluded thoughts about the launch weekend of Pokemon Legends ZA. Unless you have anything else to add to this conversation.
It's Pokemon's fun. I've been enjoying it. I think I might have more criticisms once the game's done, but so far I have a pretty open mind. And the way you say it, I'm excited to play it some more. And that's probably why Pokemon. That's probably a big reason why Pokemon can get away with I think not very well polished games, is that I think the core gameplay of Pokemon is just so fun for a lot of people that I don't know if they intentionally do it, but they can under deliver and still do super well, just because I think Pokemon on its own is just means so much to so many people, including me.
And it's still Pokemon. It takes a lot for a Pokemon game to not at least be fun.
Yeah.
But as far as today, as far as October 20th, the 29th episode of Switch to Ultra, I believe as far as video game information or news or reporting, the front lines, I'm excited to play Pokemon, you're excited to play Pokemon. We will get more into it in the coming weeks. But as of today, I have been your co-parent, BHultra.
And I have been your co-parent, Switchy.
Which starter did you pick?
Chikorita. I love Chikorita.
I see. Okay.